The first update we have today is about Teresa Giudice's recent revelations. You know, all the Real Housewives of New Jersey drama. So Teresa Giudice recently went on Nick Viall's podcast, right? And she really spilled some major tea about her time on RHONJ. She talked about that whole infamous season 11 rumor and also touched on the show being on pause right now. Okay, so looking back at that whole Evan Goldschneider cheating rumor, Teresa's now saying she actually believes her brother Joe Gorga set her up to bring it up on camera. She said Joe told her the rumor, supposedly hearing it from Margaret Josephs. Teresa kind of thinks Joe knew she'd repeat it because, well, filming was apparently so freaking boring, and producers were pushing them like, be on. She claims she initially just told Jackie's friends, Margaret and Dolores Catania, because she was trying to be a girl's girl, you know, letting them know the rumor was out there. That's kind of why she eventually forgave Jackie, basically saying, yeah, my bad for even mentioning Evan. And about the show's future, since it's been paused, Teresa shot down those rumors about test filming. She basically argued, hey, if they were really filming, fans would have already plastered photos online, right? For RHONJ to actually come back successfully, Teresa feels like she, Melissa Gorga, and really the whole cast have got to be willing to let the past go and just stop digging up old drama. Before we get into the next update, I need to check in with you all. If you're enjoying our little tea session, take a millisecond to hit the like button and subscribe to join the best reality TV community on YouTube. Done? Let's move on to next update now. Next, we are going to talk about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City's Bronwyn Newport, okay? She recently popped up on Watch What Happens Live, you know, WWHL, and really spilled some tea about her ongoing drama and even tackled some pretty serious claims about her past. So, Bronwyn, who's 40, she used the time to talk about, well, a few big things. That whole mess with Lisa Barlow, some intense rumors about past crimes, and she also updated everyone on where things stand with the other ladies and her husband, Todd Bradley. All right, first up, the Lisa Barlow stuff. Bronwyn kind of reflected on that camping trip drama, yeah? She admitted it was uncool to talk about someone when they're not there. Fair enough. But then she quickly added that Lisa, who's 50 by the way, probably should have shown up if she wanted to, you know, control the narrative. Oh, and about Lisa's creative insult, Bronwyn actually gave her credit, called it creative, but definitely untrue. She did confess to being aggressive in their latest face-off, but insisted she was just stating facts, not throwing personal insults. Basically, she wanted Lisa to have a little taste of her own medicine. Then things got heavier. She addressed those rumors swirling about identity theft and grand theft auto. Bronwyn confirmed, yeah, this is going to come up later in season 6. She clarified it's a sealed, dismissed case from 10+ years ago, so she can't talk specifics, but she reassured fans, saying basically, don't worry, you'll still like me after you see the footage. On the personal side, remember that $4 million anniversary necklace she claimed Todd bought her last season? Well, turns out, not true. She confessed she totally made it up because she wanted to look cool. Apparently, Todd, who's 66, thought the necklace looked too ostentatious anyway. And when asked who she's closest to now, it's Mary Cosby. They talk, text, grab dinner often. She even mentioned Todd loves Mary too, and is mentoring Mary's son, Robert Cosby Jr., with his sobriety journey. Her new crew also includes Angie Katzenevas, Whitney Rose, Heather Gay, she's trying her best to stay in her good graces, and Brittany Bateman. Oh, and get this, her mom filmed this season too, so we're gonna see that dynamic, which apparently illuminates a lot about Bronwyn. So this was today's update about Bronwyn Newport's drama and confessions. Let's now move on to next update. Okay, next we are going to talk about Andy Cohen doing a bit of damage control, clarifying some controversial comments he made recently. So, first up, there was this leaked Q&A video going around where he apparently said he never wanted to see Jen Shah back on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, you know, after her guilty plea in that telemarketing scheme. Andy's explanation? He clarified the video was actually old and admitted, yeah, he can get kind of mouthy during these Q&As, sometimes saying way too much when he thinks he's not being recorded. Jen Shah even seemed to respond, hinting about some unaired chats she supposedly had with Bravo about what happens when she's released. Interesting. And while that was brewing, Andy also had to address another stir caused by an interview he did for E! Headlines popped up claiming he'd listed his favorite housewives, and folks noticed OGs like Nene Leakes and Vicki Gunvalson were missing. Big deal, right? Well, Andy clarified that too. He said the interview with Bruce Botsey wasn't really about picking favorites. It was more a discussion comparing housewives to soap stars and talking about original cast members. Think Kyle Richards, Caroline Manzo, whose lives have just become so tied to the whole Real Housewives brand. He explained the chat was pretty casual, maybe a bit flippant, and the quote just got spun into a favorites headline. Still, he definitely felt the heat, confirming he heard from several housewives who were understandably unhappy about being left out of that published list. So this was today's update about Andy Cohen's recent clarifications. Let's now move on to next update. Next, we're going to talk about the latest cast tensions from The Real Housewives of Miami. Okay, so you know season 7 of The Real Housewives of Miami? Well, it's actually wrapping up soon. The finale's hitting September 25th. And let me tell you, things are getting tense, especially when it comes to Adriana de Moura. So Marysol Patton, she's 58, Adriana's 59, was just on SiriusXM's Reality Checked with Dorinda Medley, who's 60, and Kiki Monique. And Dorinda pointed out how Adriana seems kind of miserable on the show. And Marysol totally agreed, said Adriana's always miserable and actually hates doing the show. Apparently during filming, she'd constantly say things like, "I don't want to be here, this is stupid, I don't want to do this anymore," just complaining. So when Dorinda asked why she signs the contract, Marysol was blunt, "You gotta pay the bills, my friend." Kinda sounds like it's really just about the paycheck then. And this really affects the rest of the cast. Marysol said she's heard complaints from some of the girls who don't want to film with her because she's always miserable and doesn't say anything. They feel like they're picking up the slack. Though Marysol admitted Adriana does occasionally throw some bombs here or there, which helps keep her in the narrative, you know? And this kind of connects back to Adriana feeling excluded before, right? Like with Julia Lemigova, who's 53, she felt Julia took sides against her. So this was today's update about the dynamics of the RHOM cast. Let's now move on to next update. Next, we are going to talk about Slade Smiley sharing new details regarding Tamra Judge's alleged leaked studio recording and reacting to questions about his production company. Okay, so you probably saw that recent Real Housewives of Orange County episode, right? Where Gretchen Rossi's partner, Slade Smiley, kind of hinted he heard this recording, of Tamra supposedly being intimate with a rock star when they were meant to be working on a song. Well, Slade jumped onto Instagram to respond to influencer Giorgio Says about the supposed leak. Slade was clear, nothing was leaked. He called the post a false header, basically clickbait, and even called Giorgio a Tamrat minion. Slade claims the actual recording, which apparently just shows Tamra working on the song, not anything else, has actually been online for like 8 years. He says the source was the studio owner who holds the rights and gave it to Reality T. Then, things shifted because Giorgio Says also started questioning whether Slade's production company, Grayson Entertainment, even exists. But someone, a commenter at PryGuru86, who Giorgio suggested is maybe a friend of Slade and Gretchen, jumped in. This person clarified that Grayson Entertainment was set up back in 2009 for production stuff. Okay, so it's not active right now, but they said it's still, a valued part of their history, basically telling Giorgio to eat the facts. And look, this whole back and forth just highlights the long feud between Tamra and Slade, right? They've both accused each other of lying plenty of times before. It kind of reminds you of that other thing from this season where Katie Janela claimed Gretchen said Tamra drugged her. Gretchen denied it, and remember, the lie detector test backed her up on that one. So this was today's update about Slade Smiley's comments on the Tamra Judge recording and the defense of Grayson Entertainment. Let's now move on to next update. Okay, next we are going to talk about Brittany Cartwright and her new relationship status and the latest on the cast dynamics for the upcoming season of The Valley. So yeah, this update really illuminates what's happening in Brittany's personal life and depicts a pretty big shift in the cast lineup for the new season of The Valley. Right, so Brittany Cartwright, she's 36, and she's officially with Brandon Hansen. And it sounds like it's getting serious, right in the middle of filming the new season. They looked super loved up in a recent picture she shared from an arena, just weeks after going public back in August. Brittany says she's very happy and calls Brandon a great guy. But, she also mentioned her divorce from Jax Taylor, who's 46, is still going on. Lots of ups and downs, apparently, though they do have a court date coming up. Meanwhile, the rest of the Valley cast, they just headed out on their big Season 3 group trip. Zach Wickham posted photos showing everyone embarking on a train journey. You had Danny and Nia Bucco, Kristen Doty and Luke Broderick, Janet and Jason Caperna, Jasmine Good, Michelle Saunier, Jesse Lally, Zach's boyfriend Benji, Jasmine's fiancée Melissa, plus Lala Kent and Tom Schwartz were all there. But here's the thing. Scheana, Shay, she was totally missing. Big absence. Reports say the 40-year-old hasn't filmed any scenes for season 3 and definitely wasn't on this trip. Word is Bravo might be upset with her over comments she made about production in her book. And this has everyone speculating that Lala Kent, who was there, has pretty much taken Scheana's spot this season. Wow. So this was today's update about Brittany Cartwright, Brandon Hansen, and the cast shakeup on the Valley. Let's now move on to next update.
Next, we are going to talk about the recent conflict involving Meghan King and her ex-husband, Jim Edmonds. This all centers on some newly released body cam footage, from back in May in Missouri. Police were actually called out to Jim Edmonds' place, the one he shares with his current wife, Courtney O'Connor. Apparently, Meghan was accused of going into their home without permission. Okay, so this footage, it really sets the scene for a pretty tense situation. You see the police surrounding Meghan King. At one point, she starts walking away from the officers toward her car, and one officer actually threatens her, saying, "I am going to place you in cuffs if you don't stop." The officer just wanted her to calm down and talk to us. So, Meghan eventually agrees to talk, right? And she claims that Jim Edmonds, they share 3 kids, Aspen, Paput, and twins Hart and Hayes. She claims he's been incredibly emotionally abusive. She specifically alleged he uses his name to push me around and his money. Meghan also asserted that she expects to get full custody of the kids soon, claiming that Jim and Courtney are planning a move out to Nashville. Well, Jim Edmonds wasn't having it. His representative quickly responded, basically saying, as usual, Meghan is telling tales. The rep stressed that Jim is an active and present father who has consistently sought respectful co-parenting, something they feel Meghan hasn't really reciprocated yet. Interestingly, the whole thing ended without any criminal charges being filed. Courtney O'Connor decided to drop her request to press charges against Meghan. Instead, they agreed to a consent order. Basically, it just means Meghan has to keep her distance from Courtney during their children's activities. So this was today's update about the ongoing tension between Meghan King and Jim Edmonds. Let's now move on to the next update. Next, we are going to talk about Carl Radke's new business, Soft Bar, and a surprising update on his relationship with ex-fiancée Lindsay Hubbard. Okay, so Carl just opened up Soft Bar, this sober cafe and bar in Brooklyn. And it's pretty interesting because, well, back when he and Lindsay were engaged, she had seemingly kind of pushed back on the whole sober bar concept, right? But here's the big update from Carl himself in a recent interview. Lindsay actually paid Soft Bar a visit. Seriously. Carl said he was really honored she took the time and that the visit felt good. He kind of got the vibe she was impressed, realizing, wow, it's actually here. He also shared that their path forward seems better now. He feels like they're taking the right step forward, and sometimes they even find themselves laughing at stuff from the past. Oh, and Carl mentioned it's been amazing getting support from the Summer House folks, and he's hoping his journey opening the bar gets shown next season. Now, about the bar itself, people are seriously praising the prices. Fans are calling them so cheap for NYC, especially Brooklyn. We're talking specialty coffees around $7, maybe $8. And another big plus? Fans love that they're serving actual mocktails using non-alcoholic spirits and thoughtful mixers, not just, charging a lot for juice and soda. And yeah, they've even got non-alcoholic Loverboy drinks, which got people